Okay, just started recording. And do you remember what happened last time?
Yes, so last time we were crawling through the dungeons, or well, not really dungeons, the sewers.
Yep.
Claudia and Lester, and there were things like teleporting crocodiles and things like that. And we finally made it into a room where there were a number of members of the secret society.
Yep. All
And then
right.
the cliffhanger there.
Yeah. So you've just trekked through the sewers and had a hell of a time of it. And you've emerged in this lit up room. And currently, there's a number of people looking at you right now. And this big burly man right here, this guy, he seems to be the most intimidating. And he comes up to the two of you and he says, "You two don't look like the new recruits. Who are you? Speak your names."
Well, um, maybe before we do that, can you tell me who you guys are and where we actually are right now?
Maybe turn the volume down on your computer just a tad bit because I'm picking up feedback.
Yeah,
Yeah, just a tad.
better?
Yeah, that should be good.
Yeah, okay.
Alright, so the man looks at you, and then you notice that around his arm, he actually has a little dragon. So there's a little dragon wrapped around his arm. It's called a pseudo dragon. It's kind of more like a lizard than a dragon. So it sort of unwraps itself from its arm and leers up at you and hisses, and you can see its tongue flickering out like that of a snake. And then he, like, pushes his hand out in front of you, and the dragon's teeth chomp right in front of your nose, barely. And then he says, "I'm the one that's making the demands around here. You tell me who you are, and how you managed to find our little hideaway, or else my pet here's gonna chomp off that big nose of yours and feed it to your friend here." And Claudia's like, "Ugh, I don't want to eat your nose, Lester."
Okay, well, no need to lose it. My name is Lester, and this is Claudia. And as for how we found this location, well, we got trapped in the sewers, and frankly, we just walked right in.
Walked right in? You walked right into the sewers? You mean you made it past all the traps?
Yes, it wasn't that hard.
Wasn't that hard? And then, so you see these two men on the side, who have been kind of watching and observing quietly. They raise their eyebrows when you say it wasn't too hard. And this guy right here, you notice this guy's been observing you carefully, and he's kind of been flipping a flute in between his fingers. And he says,
Yeah.
"Oh, wasn't too hard, huh? I guess we need to amplify the old tryout system for the society, don't we?" And this guy here says, "Oh, it's too bad, letting in all the riffraff." And then this fellow here, this big guy, says, "Shut your trap, Abram. I'll have you know that I set up this week's traps, and if they're too hard, then, well, they should be too hard for this fool and his woman here. I don't know how they got past all the spikes and the snakes, and I'm gonna have to go and reset everything." And so he looks extremely peeved and annoyed. And then he comes up to you two and then says, "Well, so you made it past the traps, but that doesn't mean you can make your way into the society. Tell me one good reason why I shouldn't smash you and leave you bloodied and bruised against the wall."
Well, one reason, we don't actually want to be in the society. We're not here as recruits. We're here investigating a case that's happening in the city, and we were frankly just we're looking for a way out of the sewers. We got trapped down here. Whatever you're doing, it's your business. I mean, we frankly don't care. So we're not involved with whatever it is that you're doing. But I can tell you that there are things that we know, we've heard about what's going on with you, and what's going on with the king that you might be interested in. So I don't think you'd want to kill us just yet.
So this fellow here, his name appears to be Abram from what you've heard, and he says, "Oh, they're not even interested in joining the society. You've just got randoms walking in now." And this big guy here says, "Wait a minute. What'd you say your name was again? Wait, you didn't say your name. What's your name?" And once again, he holds the little dragon out right under your nose, and the dragon glares at you menacingly, its jaws shining just 2 inches away from your nostrils.
Well, my name is Lester LeFoe.
So after you say the name LeFoe, the big man here has a very intense reaction. He says, "LeFoe! You wouldn't be the son of old Mortimer, would you?"
Depends who's asking.
"I'm asking. The name's McGregor. And if you're the son of Mortimer LeFoe, I've got a bone to pick with you. Your old man ruined my last heist 3 years ago, sent 2 of my good friends to jail, him and that Captain Stroker. So maybe since he passed away, I might as well take my frustrations out on you. How does that sound?" And so he pulls out a huge mace from his back, and he begins, clapping it in one hand, looking like he's about to take it to your head. And both of these guys are watching carefully from the sidelines. Do you want to say anything?
I would say, well, if you want to do that, I guess I can understand why. But I would say don't judge a person by where he comes from. I can't say I agreed with everything my father did either. I'm still cleaning up after his messes. It's part of the reason I got into this mess.
I think your microphone is really loud, Josh. It's crazy loud. Is there a way to slightly decrease the volume, or?
Hold on a second.
Yeah. There might be a way to turn it down slightly.
I don't know, is that any better?
I think it's okay. It's just picking up a lot of feedback, but alright, it's fine. I think it should... We can deal with it.
Okay.
Oh, actually, I think... Try saying something now.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, it should be a bit better now. Yeah. It was just crazy loud before. Okay, cool. Cool. Alright, so this particularly large man, McGregor, he's still looking at you with feelings of anger and distrust on his face, and he seems to be deciding whether or not he wants to smack you in the head with his mace. And then suddenly you see this young woman up here to the north of the room, and she's been quietly observing the whole scene. She steps aside, and then you notice somebody walk out from the room behind her. Okay? An elderly woman walks out from the room behind her, and it's a woman with silvery hair and pointed ears. Okay? And she looks quite aged. And you don't know too much about elves, but you do know a half-elf when you see one. And so you recognize a half-elf woman, and strangely enough, you remember that coin that you found in the sewers, that coin that you used to open the door? You remember you had to put it in like a hole in the door to open the door to the headquarters?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you remember, that particular coin had an image of an elderly elf woman's face on it, and it matches with the facial features of this woman here. Yeah. So, this woman exits out of the room behind, and then she walks up to the scene. And then she starts making a bunch of movements with her fingers and her mouth. And she cannot speak, and you know that half-elves are mute. They're almost always born mute. They cannot speak, but they often communicate through sign language. And so she begins doing lots of intricate movements with her hands and miming words with her mouth. And then the young woman next to her, a young brown-skinned woman with lots of tattoos on her body, she begins translating what the elderly elf woman says.
Okay.
Yeah. So, this young woman says, she comes up to the big burly man here, and then she says, "Alright, that's enough, McGregor. Madame Parfinia has asked that you cease your interrogation of this young man and let him be. He is, after all, the son of the great Mortimer LeFoe. And," she walks up in front of you, "Parfinia here says that you're the splitting image of your father at your age."
Get that a lot?
So the elderly elf woman actually comes up to you, and she's looking at you with lots and lots of interest, and she's kind of examining your features and kind of putting up a hand to, like, putting up a hand against your face very gently and looking at you with a lot of interest in her eyes. And then she makes more hand movements and gestures, and then the girl next to her translates, and she says, "Ah, truly the splitting image of your father at your age, Lester. Parfinia here says that Mortimer never really told her much about you after you were born, and it's been so long, so many years. And to think that you would stumble your way into the society headquarters after so long, it's like seeing your father born again. Parfinia was so very unhappy to hear of his untimely demise. It was truly unfortunate, particularly because your father, after he met your mother, never bothered to visit anymore."
Yeah. I get the feeling there's a lot of things about my father that I didn't entirely know that I'm coming to learn now.
So Claudia leans up against you and says, "Was your father diddling a half-elf back in the day?"
I don't know.
"It's quite possible that she could be 90 years his senior. You know how old elves are." And actually, because half-elves have very good hearing, and they can't speak, they compensate for it in other ways. The half-elf hears Claudia's mumbling, and then makes some more gestures with her hands, more intricate gestures. And then the translator woman says, "Well, yes, actually, your father and Parfinia here had a dalliance or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or maybe even 7 back in the day, but it was long before your mother came into the picture, so don't you worry, Lester. After Mortimer LeFoe met your mother, Jasmine, he refused to come here, much to my chagrin and eternal unhappiness, and he continuously forgot to send me white roses for my birthday. He knows those were he knew that those were my favorites, but he was never very good at remembering birth dates."
Don't take that personally. He forgot.
There is one interesting thing. So if you remember this little document, I just showed it to you. This document that shows the Sleight of Hand Society notes at the bottom. It says, "Society headquarters changes on a monthly basis. Reminder: forgot Parfinia's birthday. Bring her white roses next time."
Yeah.
So as you actually pull out that little paper and end up looking at it, the older half-elf woman, Parfinia, she catches a glimpse of it and says, "How did your father have up-to-date society symbols if he never bothered to come here in so many years? Who was leaking out information to him? Your father's quite the investigator. And I see that he wrote a note down there to give me roses, but never followed up on it. How typical. And then she leans back against the wall and makes more signs. And then the young woman here says, I'm not going to bother translating those for you. She's, it wouldn't be good for the ears of the younger audience members here. And she points towards Claudia, and Claudia says, hey, wait, you don't look that much older than me. And the young woman here, who's been translating, she says, she gives a curtsy, and she says that her name is Ines, and she is the official handmaiden of Parfinia, the so-called thief queen and the leader of the Sleight of Hand Society.
Well, maybe since we don't really know what you guys do, we've only heard rumors, and now we've happened to have stumbled upon you quite by accident. Would you mind telling us why, what exactly is that you are, and why you're all in the sewer?
McGregor here, the overly aggressive man, he's been quite confused and annoyed by the past couple interactions. He's like, wait a minute, are we really gonna start sharing society secrets with these idiots from the street, let alone Mortimer LeFoe's son? Now, I don't know what you and him had 50 or 60 years ago, Madame Parfinia, but I've still got a bone to pick with this young man, and I've got an inkling to smash his skull into bits and then feed it to his woman over there. And I don't see why I shouldn't. And at the very least, I don't see why we should be sharing trade secrets with him. And he continues to be very pissed off. And then the thief queen Parfinia, she snaps her fingers, and McGregor stands to attention with a frightened look on his face. And then Parfinia goes up under him and starts making more gestures. And then Ines here translates. And then Ines says, well, according to Parfinia, McGregor, you had best shut your mouth, because you're only 2 months into the society, and you have no right to be making such conjectures and demands and harsh statements. You best watch yourself, McGregor. And McGregor says, but madam, I'm just looking out for the society. And then Parfinia makes more hand signals. Ines translates and says, we all know that you have several shady side dealings, McGregor. Your interests are not necessarily aligned with the society's interests. Now back off, or you'll see the true wrath of Madame Parfinia. McGregor backs off, looking disturbed and angry, but he still has a glare in his eyes that's directed towards you. And he still clutches that mace firmly, and you can see that his knuckles have turned red because he's gripping the mace so angrily. Meanwhile, these two guys have they're perfectly content to watch the madness unfold without partaking in it. And you notice that one guy here, the man named Abram, he appears to be playing with the flute in his fingers, and the next thing you know, you see a rat pop out from his coat and run around his shoulders and then back into his shirt. And Claudia looks at you and says, my God, that's disgusting, Lester. They've got an infestation problem. So you're kind of shaking your head at these strange individuals. And then Parfinia here says, or rather Ines translates for her. She says, well, you successfully made it through all the traps in the sewers, and to be honest, those are in place for our new recruits. We change them quite frequently, and the new recruits who wish to just join the society must survive the gauntlet. That is what we call it, the sewer gauntlet of truly nefarious traps and tricks, and it appears that you've done it by luck or by intention, and therefore you might as well be honorary members of the society. Welcome! And so McGregor here seems extraordinarily pissed off after hearing this. And he says, "What?" And he goes off to stew in the corner, looking extremely angry. Meanwhile, these two guys here are kind of like, "Oh, honorary members of the society," and then they start applauding. And so Parfinia looks you up and down and says, "Well, Lester, if your father never told you what the society did, it's probably because he wanted to spare you from the darker parts of Tartec Lowtown. We are, how shall we say, the fringes of this great city. We deal in a little bit of sleight of hand, a little bit of thievery, all thieves and good people who wish to take from the rich and not necessarily give to the poor, or keep to themselves, rather, have a home here in the society. And we don't just let any old petty crook into our midst. Only the finest of thieves are allowed a place in the society, and that's why we have the Gauntlet, who are, you know, our good friends on the street, the beggars of Tartec, set up for us. Did you come through by the beggars of Tartec by any chance?"
That's how we came to be in the sewers.
Ines asked, "Did they close the sewer grate on you?"
That they did. That's why we were looking for a way out. And that's how we found our way here.
Abram over here chuckles and he says, "Ah, they must have thought that you wanted to undergo the gauntlet."
Yeah, it was hard to get much information out of it. Like I said, we were investigating some issues that were occurring in the city.
Abram nods and says, "Well, you know, the beggars are, they're not quite, their light bulbs are a bit dull in the brain, if you know what I'm saying, so fair enough. Welcome to the society." And then Parfinia says, "Well, you might as well make yourself at home. Have a rest for a bit, and if you wish, feel free to talk to Abram or Ramiro over there. He can help you if you need to restock your equipment by any chance. And if you wish to know more about the society, ask Ines, and she'll escort you into my quarters. Maybe we can catch up and you can tell me all about your father and what he did in all the many years when he left me unhappy and wishing for him to come back." And so both of them start moving up here towards Parfinia's private chambers.
Okay.
This guy here, Abram, he comes up to you and says, "By the way, when you were in the sewers just now, did you happen to spot an associate of ours, perhaps? A man with a crocodile, maybe?"
We did see a crocodile. If we were a bit slower, that crocodile might have had us for lunch. There's somebody. He wasn't. He was more in the past tense. There was somebody. There was a body that we found. Yeah.
"A body," Abram says. "So you mean to say you saw a crocodile, but you didn't see a man attached to the crocodile?"
No, if I remember right, we found a body in the water, or in this, whatever you want to call it.
These two here, Abram and Ramiro, they look at each other with worried expressions on their face, and they say, "Did the body have a name on it at all? Did you see a name tag? Was he wearing a uniform?"
I believe it was a uniform for the people that clean the sewers in Tartec.
Do you remember his name?
No, not off the top of my head. I wonder if I wrote it down.
I think you did write it down somewhere. Probably in your, possibly in your on your character sheet notes. If you don't remember, I think Claudia might remember, so it's okay.
Yeah, we got his ID.
You got his ID. All right.
Yeah, I was like, oh, here, I'll, let me, I had to rummage around a bit to find it, but here it was. Here was his ID. We took it because we thought it would be best if we could alert somebody in case he had family.
So Claudia looks at the ID, and the guy's name was Edward Stoneborough.
Huh.
Yeah, the guy's name was Edward Stoneborough. So you hand over the ID to Abram, and then Abram looks at it and shakes his head and says, "Oh no, Fast Eddie bit the dust." Both of them looked sadly upon the ID, and McGregor here comes up to it and says, "Fast Eddie bit the dust. Well, he deserves it. That's what he gets for messing around with crocodiles."
That was his crocodile.
Well, would you like to ask more? You can choose to ask more if you want.
Well, we did see a broken leash. It looked like the crocodile. Well, I don't know if the crocodile was on the leash, but he did have something. There was something that we found that looks like it was meant to hold an animal like about that size. Why did he have a crocodile?
So Abram shakes his head and says it's a long story. So Fast Eddie, Fast Eddie's a bit of an idiot, all right, but 3-year member of the society, a good man, not too sharp in the head. Don't worry, he's got no family, so you don't have to contact anyone. We're his family, so to speak. I'd rather not be related to the guy, but we're his family. And Fast Eddie, you see, he had this crackpot plan to, how the Tartec sanitation department is experimenting with wildlife in order to clean out the sewers. They've got these crocodiles, and they're trying to build these teleportation machines, whatever those are, to transport themselves around the sewers and clean up all the rats and the mildew and all that other crap that's down there. You heard about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so Fast Eddie, well, he's always had a kind of an unnatural fixation with reptiles, and I'm not sure what would possess a man to be so into reptiles, and he says this as the rat is like running around in his coat. I don't know what would possess a man to be so into reptiles, but he came up with this crackpot plan to infiltrate the sanitation department and steal one of those teleportation machines for himself. And it was a long procedure, and he's been at it for the last couple months. But he went missing about a week ago, and we didn't know what happened to him, and we were thinking about heading out to search because it's been a while since we heard from him. And well, apparently, and Abram holds up the name tag, which is still bloodied. Apparently, Fast Eddie wasn't as friendly with crocodiles as he thought he was.
Yeah.
McGregor shakes his head and is like, ugh, disgusting. And then Abram says, well, where did you happen to see his corpse? Is it back through the gauntlet or what?
Claudia, do you remember? I can't remember exactly where it was. I remember we found him in the water, I think. But...
Yeah, Claudia remembers. Claudia says, yeah, he was lying face down in the shit water, just with his intestines all hanging out, and his colon just dangling, and blood and guts everywhere. Probably if you walk down the corridor and avoid all those spike traps that you blokes so politely placed in order to skewer poor little girls like me, you'll probably be able to find him. And then Abram's like, well, I liked Fast Eddie, but I'd rather not be the one to do this. And so he raises his hand, and he says, not it. And then Ramiro here is also like, not it. And then Ines, the girl here, is also, not it. And even the rat raises its tail in the air and makes a squeak. And the only one who is slow to do it is McGregor. And McGregor's like, what the hell? Why do I have to be the one to wade through the shit? And Ramiro says, well, you did most recently set up the traps for, our current gauntlet, so you know best how to avoid them. And McGregor says, I don't even know why I'm a member of this goddamn society. No respect. Move out of my way, LeFoe. And he pushes you aside. And then begins to saunter out of the room. Before he leaves, he turns towards you and says, this ain't finished between us. We still got things to talk about, preferably with our fists. And then that little dragon that kind of encircled itself around his arm, it hisses at you. And so he bangs the door shut and is gone. Abram looks at you and says, don't worry about McGregor. He's a newbie, and a very angry newbie with a bad temper. Don't worry about him. His bark is just as bad as his bite, but don't worry about him.
I seem to have pissed him off, but it seems like he needs he could chill out a little bit.
Abram says, well, from what I understand, it sounds like your father pissed him off more than you, which I can understand. I never knew my father. But, he pisses me off.
Yeah. I'm learning a lot about my father these days. It's been educational for the old family.
So, alright, so you're in the society, and, if you remember, Parfinia said that her quarters are to the north. You can always talk with Ines if you want to speak more with Parfinia. Or you can choose to talk with these guys, Abram and Ramiro here. She did say that Ramiro has some interesting items that you can take a look at if you so desire.
Yeah. Well, let me talk with these guys first. So, anyway, well, nice to formally meet you guys. Like I said, my name is Lester. This is Claudia.
Nice to meet you, Lester and Claudia, says Abram. My name is Abram, just Abram. Thank you. First name Abe, last name Ram. And I am the most esteemed bounty hunter in all of Tartec. Ramiro says, my name's Ramiro, and don't listen to Abram. He's full of himself. And Abram says, hey, get no respect around here. I'll have you know that, Lester, you ever want somebody to get offed? You ever want to put a hit out on anybody? Just call me, alright? You know where to find me. Most of the time I'm here. I got a job coming up recently where I need to take care of a certain ranger who's been causing some trouble for a large number of our people, but I'm here most of the time.
Uh-huh.
If you want to know what happened to Abram on his bounty for the certain ranger, you can refer to the previous blog post on the 13th Hour blog where we described the Wayfarer's mini-campaign, which ended in a conflagration of sorts.
Uh-huh. Well, it's nice to meet you, gentlemen. You probably have guessed, but Claudia and I work at the LeFoe Detective Agency.
Oh, a detective, Abram says. Private, right? Not working with the police force?
No. Although, those, well, just say Tartec's finest have, recently, we've been dealing with them recently, is there's a issue that the king apparently wanted to have investigated. It's a real mess.
Both of them look up at you and say, so, you do understand the, snitches get stitches philosophy, right? No blabbing about the location of the society, right? Our people are everywhere.
Yeah, so we've come to notice.
Very
One of the
good.
things, yeah.
As long as you understand that, says Abram, and he's got a cane, and he pulls out a glimpse of the sword hidden within the cane, just to make sure you know what he's talking about, and then shoves it shut. And the rat runs around the cane and then pops back into his shirt. And then Abram says, "Oh, this is Ratchus the Rat, by the way. Didn't bother to introduce him before, because he's not very friendly towards strangers most of the time, but he's my truest and best brother out there." Claudia looks disgusted.
So we had heard that you might be able to help us replenish a few supplies.
Well, if you want supplies, then yeah, talk to Ramiro, Abram says. And then Ramiro comes up to you and says, "Excellent! What did you need? I am the official fence of the Sleight of Hand Society. I take care of any goods, any stolen goods that need to be delicately transported, anything that needs to be fixed, or any particular society gear. I often deal in, and if you got something good, I can give you a good price for it. If you want to peruse my wares, then you can also take a look. We have the finest in experimental weaponry, and perhaps we should say shadily acquired goods. And I'll show you this week's items." And so he opens the chest, and you see a collection of things. And here, I'll show you what they are here. You can take a look.
Huh. Oh, nice.
Yeah, so this here is Ramiro's goods. You can see the picture, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you click on the picture, you can see a bigger version of it. So you see some interesting stuff. Ramiro here, he's got a very nicely made crossbow that's shaped like a dragon. Okay, a dragon spit crossbow, and he's got a couple different bolts for the crossbow as well. He's got this other thing, a staff, a very gnarled staff with a magical looking gem stuck at its tip. He says that's the Staff of Vines. Alright? He's got another thing, a cloak, a big blue cloak. He says that's the Cloak of Protection. And then finally he's got a box, and he flips it open, and you see a wide variety of papers and signs and seals within, along with different kinds of parchment, different kinds of pens. And he identifies that as the Sleight of Hand Forgery Kit. Alright? And so if you look down here, you can see descriptions of all of these items. The crossbow is called a Dragon Spit Crossbow, 250 gold. Built from the bones of a red dragon, this fine weapon is superior to your average crossbow and designed to fire specialty bolts inspired by the winged reptiles. It can also fire regular bolts too. Okay? And you can see the type of damage it does. This is a ranged weapon, which you currently do not have. When you choose to use it, and you do a roll, like your attack roll, when you roll to see if your attack will hit, you get an automatic +5. So you get an automatic +5 to whatever you roll. And then the damage it causes is 1d10 plus whatever your dexterity modifier is. So I think for Lester, Lester's dexterity is... Lester has a dexterity modifier of 2, if you look on the side of your character sheet. So you get a +2 added to that 1d10.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the damage it does. Shoots up to 100 feet. Requires 2 hands to operate. It's a 2-handed weapon. So you can't have your mace in the other hand. And then Ramiro's got bolts. He's got regular bolts you can buy. And he's got specialty bolts as well. These are specifically fitted for this type of crossbow. He's got smokescreen bolts. You can get a pack of 10 for 80 gold. That causes smoke to erupt from the point of impact in a 10-foot radius all around the target. Smoke lasts for 1 minute, and it's good for blurring someone's vision. You've got these fire burst bolts. A pack of 10 is 80 gold. Causes a small explosion after impact, creating flames in a 10-foot radius all around the target. Flames last for 1 minute but can spread. Do not use indoors. Yeah. So if you want to know how wide like a 10-foot radius would be, I can show you. It would be like if you look on the map right now, if you move this to the side and look at the map, every square around you is 5 feet.
Okay.
So like a 10-foot radius around Ramiro would be going up to here. This is a small room. So
Pretty big.
it would be pretty big. So it would actually be a 10-foot radius in all directions would be like this. It would be hitting Ratchus the Rat as well and forming like a cross shape here. And not just the cross, it would be covering these squares as well.
Right.
Yeah, so it's actually it's quite large within, but this is also a small room. Outside, when we're dealing with a larger area, it might not necessarily be as big. But yeah. So the smoke bolts cause smoke to erupt out in 10-foot radius all around the target, and the fire burst bolts do the same thing but flames.
Huh.
Yeah.
So, question about this sleight of hand kit.
Yeah.
It says character must be proficient in the performance skill. What is that?
Yeah, so the Sleight of Hand forgery kit, it's the Sleight of Hand uses this to basically carry out their deeds. It's filled with papers and seals that are duplicates of the ones used by King Darian, the Tartec police force, and the majority of noble families living in Hightown. A character must be proficient in the performance skill to make proper use of this. So if you look at your character sheet, I'll show it to you. Go down to your skills section right there, and you'll see performance. You actually are not proficient in the performance skill. If you were, you would have a check next to it. You're proficient in perception, medicine, investigation, insight, history, and deception. Yeah. So basically that means that even if you had the forgery kit, you wouldn't necessarily be able to use it very well. You wouldn't be able to mimic your handwriting or know how to organize it in the right way, or know which noble house's seal goes where. Claudia is proficient in performance.
Yeah.
So there's that. There's a cloak of protection for 100 gold. It's a cloak seemingly belonging to a former adventurer. There's a name tag in the collar that reads J. Allsworth. Wearing this automatically raises your armor class by 1. So it's just an instant armor boost. I think your current armor class is 14. So if you wore it, it would be 15. You become harder to hit.
What's Claudia's?
Claudia's is, let me take a look. Claudia's is 13. Yeah. Claudia's is 13.
I can't see her character sheet for some reason, but maybe I'll look in the right spot. I was trying to remember how much gold she had.
Claudia has 335 gold. Let me make it so that you can see her character sheet. I think. Can you see it now? You should be able to see it now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so Claudia's got 335 gold. I don't remember how much gold you have. You have
500 somewhere, right?
Yeah, you guys found a lot of gold in the sewers, and you remember who you took that gold off from?
Yeah, it was Fast Eddie, wasn't it?
Fast Eddie. You took the gold off of Fast Eddie. Now you know why a sanitation worker had so much gold.
Okay.
Best not to tell them.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And then finally, there's also the Staff of Vines, 150 gold. It's an elvish weapon. It's got a gem with the powers of the forest in the tip. It also, when you do an attack roll, you also get a +5 bonus automatically, and then the damage is 1d8 plus whatever your dexterity modifier is. For you, it's a 2. It's bludgeoning damage. So for 3 times a day, this is an interesting weapon. 3 times a day, when you use this thing and you shout out the elvish word Evrash, which means entangle, vines will actually sprout from the gemstone upon the impact and potentially entangle the target. So in order for the target to escape, they need to basically beat a 12 dexterity saving throw. They need to make a roll for dexterity, and they need to roll higher than a 12 to escape. So it can grapple an opponent and restrain them. Okay, you can use it 3 times a day, and the vines can come in useful if you want to hold somebody down. The staff recharges overnight, so you get your charges back after like 7 to 8 hours.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is what Ramiro has for this week, and you can choose if you want to buy something.
Yeah, I think we should buy some things.
You don't have money to buy everything though, so Depends
True.
on what you want to use.
Well, I think maybe let's see. Let's look again.
And you can also confer with Claudia over what she thinks might be most useful, or what you think she might want.
Yeah, I was gonna think she might want the cloak, but so Claudia, is there any of the stuff you want in here? I think you're the only one that can use the sleight of hand forgery kit.
She
Well,
says,
use it well.
"Yeah, I'm the only one that can use it, 'cause don't think you've got the right sort of performance tactics, Lester, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I've only got 335 gold, and that son of a bitch costs 300. God, so I mean, I suppose I could buy it if you think it'll come in handy. It's got papers and seals that can let us impersonate King Darian and maybe get him into some trouble if you want. Maybe we can write an official seal saying, 'My name is Darian, and henceforth I shall be known as Darian the Diddler,' and then stamp it, and then distribute it to the Tartec Tribune."
Yeah, yeah. Is there anything else that you want?
The Staff of Vines is pretty nice. I've only got this crooked staff that's not quite as good. Staff of Vines would be cool, being able to shoot vines on people using ancient elvish lingo. I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah.
And the cloak is pretty cool too, if you think about it. Can help protect a small defenseless young female like myself from the dark denizens of Tartec. I'm not really too keen on crossbows, you can have that. But the others I like. Maybe you could buy all of them for me, Lester.
Well, together we have 500, about 800 something. And let's see, 400, 550.
Oh, Lester, you know I'm no good with maths.
I think we actually would have just about enough. All right.
Remember, Lester, if you decide to buy bolts for that crossbow, they're also going to cost money.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Let me just double check. Let's see how much I have. I think I have 5 something or other.
Yeah, Claudia has 335. Let's see. You have 516.
335 plus 351. Okay. Let's see. 250. Okay.
Alright.
Alright.
Shopping is hard, isn't it?
Yeah. Ramiro, I think we're interested in taking. We're interested in a number of these things.
Alright, Ramiro says, rubbing his hands together.
Yeah. If we'd be definitely interested in the staff and the kit and the cloak, potentially the crossbow. What's the best price you could do on all of them, given that we'd be taking all of them off your hands?
Ramiro he pulls out an abacus and then starts doing calculations on it. Well, the crossbow, the vines, the cloak, and the sleight of hand forgery kit all together, 800, and you're gonna want bolts to go with the crossbow, so let's see. pack of bolts, pack of normal bolts. That's 820. I could give you everything for 820 if you got that much money. But you're not getting the specialty bolts because those are 80 each. It takes forever to make those.
Could you do 750?
This ain't no charity, my friend. This is sleight of hand stuff. These are good illegal goods. Not any of that crap you can find in any tavern or low quality inn throughout Tartec. 750, I'm afraid. You got no good. Unless, of course, you have something that you'd like to sell me, then maybe we could make a deal. Got anything good on you?
Depends what you'd be interested in. You might. Let's see here.
You can take a look at what you have, especially in your treasures, written in your treasures sheet. You've got a lot of random stuff. You've got some dead snakes. You've got a tissue sample from a gigolo.
You have a teleportation vest.
Yes, you do. It is broken though.
Yeah. That seems like the other stuff. I don't know.
Let's see what Claudia has. I'll take a look in Claudia's bag of holding. She's got... Claudia's got a grappling hook, a knuckle duster. She's got a pair of gigolo boots. She's got Hubert the lamb. Claudia's like, do you want to try selling them that teleportation thing, Lester? I mean, presumably this guy's a fixer and he might be able to get it working. It belonged to Fast Eddie, didn't it? Or he stole it from the sanitation department, so presumably these guys might want it. Yeah. But do we want it? That's another question.
Well, I think at this point it's I don't know how good it is to us because I don't know if it works.
That's true. We could try fixing it. We could give it to, like, I don't know, we could give it to William the wizard and see if he could fix it for us.
That's true.
Or we could also try selling it to these guys. It depends on what you want to do. Or I could try pawning Hubert off, but I don't think he wants to leave the bag right now.
No. Here, let's see if they're interested in this teleportation device. Here, let's pull this out and go to Ramiro. This is something that we found in our adventure so far. We're not entirely sure if it works, but maybe something of interest to you fellas.
So you pull it out and you hand it to Ramiro, and then Abram and Ramiro both look at it with fascination, and Abram says, "Oh, it's that thing that Fast Eddie was trying to get his hands on." And Ramiro is like, "Hot damn, I've always wanted one of these. I can fix it." And then he starts looking at it, and he starts kind of babbling about it, kind of babbling techno-babble, and it appears that this is a guy that knows how to fix things. And he starts going on about how it was made and how it was reverse engineered from some piece of technology that the Tartec Science Division found, and how it enables you to teleport up to small distances, and so on and so forth. And so from his babbling, as he hands it over and starts examining it, he's also started to pull like screwdrivers and stuff out of the chest, and he's kind of working on the teleportation vest. From his ramblings, you can gather some information about the thing, and I'll show it to you just so you know what it is. So that's what it looks like. You see it?
Okay.
Yeah. So technically, it's called a spatial discombobulation machine. All right. So this thing, when it's properly fixed, it allows for a short distance teleportation of up to 20 feet. That's 4 squares on a map. So you can teleport around up to 4 squares on a map. It can be used 3 times a day, and it recharges overnight. So it's kind of like that staff. Okay. So it's this thing is a strange mechanism of red wires and straps that perfectly fits around a vest. This is a relic from another time and place, reverse engineered by King Darian Science Division. It allows for small distance teleportation and was utilized by workers in the Tartec Sanitation Department, along with domesticated crocodiles, to quickly move around the labyrinth sewers in a widespread cleanup effort. Some of the wires attached to the machine appear to connect with a leash. Presumably, the leash was placed around the crocodile's neck and allowed the crocodile to also teleport along with the wearer of the vest. Unfortunately, the leash mechanism is irreparably damaged, but the rest of the mechanism appears to be okay. So, now that you know what this thing is, you can get a sense of what it was used for. The sanitation people would teleport around the sewers with the crocodiles to eat rats and snakes and stuff like that and clean up the sewers. And the crocodile was kind of like connected to the wires on the vest by a leash. But then apparently the crocodile ate Fast Eddie and ate the vest and then was teleporting around by itself.
Huh. Okay.
So Ramiro starts working on this thing and he's like, so, if you sell this to me, I will be able to let you have... And he counts on his fingers. 600 gold. How about it?
600 gold.
So Claudia says, well, 600 gold, so, I mean, that could help us buy everything, or we could keep the discombobulation, whatchamacallem, and only buy a few things from Mr. Ramiro here. Or we could save our money and not buy anything. We'll come back later.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do it. Let's sell it to Eddie. Maybe on one condition. I'll tell you what. We'll take if we sell it to there. We'll take the crossbow.
Yeah.
We'll take the cloak. We'll take the staff, and the kit.
Taking everything. All right. And
we'll
what's
take,
the condition?
We'll need a pack of bolts.
Okay.
If you can. So that would normally be 820, right? You said.
Yeah, that would be to buy everything, and a pack of regular bolts would be 820. But if you sell this thing to him, you can actually get the specialty bolts too. You have enough money for those.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's do it.
All right, so you have yourself a deal, and so Ramiro spits in his hand a huge amount of phlegm, and then he holds it out to you in order to seal the pact.
Oh God! All right, well.
Can't leave a man waiting when he's got his hand out.
All right, here we go. You're gonna do that. Spit.
All right, you spit in your hands, and then you slap them together. How long are you gonna shake for?
Shake, shake, shake. Good. Okay.
Claudia says, "You men are truly something else. You can catch some diseases that way." All right, so let's do the math. You hand over the spatial discombobulation machine, the final will and testament of Fast Eddie, so to speak, and so you get 600 gold, and I'm gonna assume that pops into your inventory.
Sure.
Yeah, so you've got 600. So you've got 516 plus 600. You have 1,116. I'll write it in for you.
Yeah, I just put it in.
Yeah. So now you want to buy everything, right?
Yeah.
All right. So let's see.
I think it's 820 plus whatever that is for the specialty bolts, 160 maybe or something.
To buy everything, it's 980.
Okay.
To buy everything, it's 980. So you gonna do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
136.
Yep. So okay, you buy everything. You've got 136, and Claudia's still got her 335 gold.
Yeah.
So you guys still got some gold. All right. So it's 136 now, And how do you want to distribute this stuff? Who gets who? Who gets what?
All right, so I'm gonna give Claudia is gonna get the cloak and the she's gonna get everything basically except for the crossbow.
All right.
'Cause-
So okay. So I'm gonna put the sleight of. I'm gonna write this in her thing. Forgery kit. Okay, so she takes the forgery kit and she takes the cloak of protection. So because she's got the cloak of protection, her armor class is now 14. Cloak of protection. Okay.
And I'm writing in the.
Yeah. And you're giving her the staff of vines also, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll write that in for her. Alright, step ones. Okay. I've written everything down for Claudia. Alright. Now, do you need any help filling out your sheet or writing the stuff on there?
No, it's good.
Smokescreen bolts. Okay, yeah, you got 10 smokescreen bolts, 10 fireburst bolts, 20 regular bolts. Here, I'll actually write the crossbow under your attacks section for you, because that's where all of your equipment is. I'll do it now for you. Dragon spit crossbow, so that you can see exactly what the variables are for damage.
Oh, I was wondering how you.
Yeah, I'll do it now for you. So yeah, when you attack, it adds on your dexterity modifier. Yeah. The range is really good. Range up to 100 feet. Damage is 1d10 plus whatever your dexterity is.
I think it's.
Okay, yeah. So I wrote it in for you actually. So yeah, your dragon spit crossbow. Whenever you do, you roll an attack, automatically get +4, and then the damage will always be 1d10 plus 2. So it's pretty good. It's better than your current things. But two-handed weapon. You can't hold the mace or the short sword. Yeah. You can always stow, if you want to use your melee weapons, you can always stow the cross bolt away and then pull out your weapons, but you can do that before combat or use a turn doing that.
Once you shoot the bolts, can you get them back, or do you lose them?
It depends. Well, see, the smokescreen bolts and the fireburst bolts, those pretty much explode upon impact.
Right.
So no, you can't get those back. A regular bolt you can get back after a battle. So after a battle, after you use your bolts, ask me, and then I'll roll to see how many were broken in the fight, how many are recoverable.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So just remember, after you use your weapons, that yeah, if you want to recover bolts at the end, then ask me. Yeah. Another thing that's interesting to note: the regular bolts, those can be purchased pretty much anywhere. If you remember in Tartec, the village square, there was also like a weapon seller there. She also has regular bolts, but these specialty ones, these can only be purchased in the Sleight of Hand Society.
Okay.
Ramiro says, "Well, you'll wipe me out. Thank you, sir. Good business, and I will get to work on trying to fix Fast Eddie's gimmick gadget here and seeing if I can make it work. Wouldn't it be something if we could teleport all over the place, Abram?
Yeah,
Abram strokes his beard and says, "That would be something indeed."
Can can I look around this environment here to see what else there is?
Yep. So I mean, it's basically a meeting room. You can see Ramiro's got all his stuff here. This is sort of like a little workshop. He's got a lot of tools stowed away in these shelves here, and then this is where he keeps all of his goods. This is obviously a table where they were drinking and dicing, and this is kind of like a table with an orb atop it that kind of provides light for Ramiro to work. Abram's kind of just hanging out with Ratchus the Rat on the side here, and then if you look up here, there's a massive door here that seems to lead somewhere, and then Ines right here is standing up near another door which appears to lead into Parthenia's private chambers.
Okay. Why don't we head up there?
Okay.
Okay. Gentlemen, we're going to head up here and talk to the ladies up here.
Alright, so you go up, and then Ines lets you through the doorway, and you can go inside if you want. Alright, and so you are in Parthenia's private chambers, and the so-called Thief Queen is there, lounging and looking at you, still in amazement, because obviously you remind her of your father, and you can feel free to strike up a conversation with her. What would you like to know?
Well, there's a lot about my father that I didn't know, and I'm only just now learning aspects about his life. His life revolved around work, and that meant that a lot of times for family-related things, we didn't see very much of him. And so a lot of what I know about him, I found out from other people, actually, like yourself, or from his writings, his diaries, those kinds of things like that. And since we have, met serendipitously, I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about how you guys met.
Parthenia makes the usual hand signs, and then Ines translates. And so, through the signs, this is what she says, and Parthenia says, "Well, I met your father when he was a young man about your age. Still a historian, but trying to get into the detective business, and trying to make a name for himself by solving crimes and helping people here and there. But even though he was a detective, he wasn't averse to mingling with the undesirables of society, so to speak, and myself, I came to Tartec many years ago. Possibly it was King Darian the second or the first? I can't remember which. All the Darians kind of become the same after a while. Very dysfunctional family. But, well, there's a reason why you don't see too many half-elves in Tartec or anywhere in the north, really. It's because we get treated terribly wherever we go, and the fact that we can't really speak, well, that doesn't help us very much either. But for a stealthy and agile young half-elf who knows her way in and out of places, there is work to be found, and there was work to be found in Tartec, and I quickly mingled in with the leader of the society, who was at that time a man named Bartholomew, who was kind to me, unlike most other people in this capital city. I quickly became his top agent and one of the best thieves in this city, and that's how I met your father. I met him right after I had ascended as the leader of the society, and, well, your father was trying to get to know the ins and outs of the Tartec underworld, and he befriended me, and perhaps the friendship emerged into a little bit more than friendship at times. But your father, despite his faults and despite the fact that he never remembered my birthday, he was a good man. After he met your mother, he called things off between us, because, well, there were problems. We were kind of on the opposite sides of the law, even though he sometimes came to me for information. There were just as many times when he would be employed to investigate something that one of my men had done, or something that one of my men had stolen. So it made for a very complex relationship if you're kind of in an opposite line of work like that. And so your father eventually decided that things were never going to work out, particularly because, well, half-elves outlive pretty much everyone, even though I'm starting to get on in age myself. And so he met your mother. And I never really heard from him afterwards, although he still seems to have been keeping tabs on the society even in his old age, judging by the notes that he kept. As for myself, I've led this organization and kept my people safe, and managed to outsmart the bumbling ways of the Tartec police force and the bumbling ways of the latest King Darian, immortal though he says he is. None of us really believe it. I've seen immortality, and it doesn't look like Darian. And so, well, that's it pretty much. Rest assured, Lester, that your father, despite his faults, was not a terrible man. He was merely a heartbreaker, and a forgetful individual who never remembered a birthday, but there are worse people in this world, I suppose. Ines looks tired from having translated so much, and she's having communicated so much with her hands.
Yeah. Well, you know, if there's anything that you're always welcome to stop by our agency, and I don't know if that's a place where you would feel comfortable, but you're certainly welcome to stop by. And he has a lot of his things there, things that I don't even really understand. I mean, they're just sort of sentimental things, but if any of those things have value to you, you're welcome to have them.
Oh, that's quite all right, dear, Parthenia says through Ines. As the leader of the society, I try not to go to any place that involves the word detective or agency in the title. But who knows, maybe I'll have a change of heart one day. Thank you for the invitation, nonetheless.
Yeah. You know, we ended up here because we were actually investigating an issue that came up in the palace. The latest Darian, esteemed leader that he is, has gotten himself into a little trouble, and we were employed to investigate what we can, and we came across a couple things that we know something about. We could pull out the grappling hook and the knuckle dusters.
Okay. So, do you want to tell her everything, or do you want to?
Maybe just sort of summarize a Cliff Notes version of it.
Okay. So yeah, sure. You can do that. You summarize the Cliff Notes version of the investigation, and do you tell her about the gigolo?
Well, I guess I tell her start out with something a little bit about the orangutan.
Yeah.
And then that's how we originally got involved, and then a little bit about the king. I think we'll keep the issue about the gigolo private for now, since we said that we would try to keep that under wraps. Mm-hmm. But just a little bit about the king and how this body was found in his chambers. Mm. She can draw her own conclusions if she wants. And some of the stuff that we found, in the room, like the knuckle dusters.
Yeah. All right. So I mean, as you pull out the items, the grappling hook and the knuckle dusters, you lay them down on the table. Ines recognizes the items, and she says, "Oh, they're from Neva, just like me." And she turns to you and says, "These are common tools used by the assassins of Neva. How much do you know about Neva?"
Well, I can't say I know a ton. Not much. you know, we've learned a little bit here and there from these, but frankly, I mean, it's been sort of a mess. That we know that you know, there's many Nevan folks that are here in the city, and they have a hard time finding work. So they do what they can. But frankly, we're not entirely sure what, they may, why they would necessarily choose now to go after the king, or whether they're even connected at all.
Well, Ina says, I can perhaps help you out with this. She shows you all the intricate tattoos on her body and says, Nevans often have tattoos branded into them as a coming-of-age ceremony. I had these branded into me when I was a little girl, shortly before my family and I immigrated to Tartec. I came here when I was still a relatively young girl, and you'll find that within the Nevan immigrants in Tartec, there are very sharp divisions in thought. Many people that came here and have been here for a long time have more or less integrated into society, whether it's through proper jobs or whether it's through sleight of hand work like myself. There are, however, more radical members of Neva, particularly the ones that have just recently left, and they're the ones that have been hit hard by taxation policies, discrimination, inability to find a job. And there's been talk in segments of Neva society lately that something big is coming. Something big is brewing, and Tartec will change like it's never changed before. And all Nevans will be able to call Tartec their home, and will be able to avoid the discrimination that they've faced. I don't know what exactly these plans are, but I've heard people muttering about it. And then Parthenia makes some signs with her hands, and then Ines translates. And Parthenia says, "We've heard about these things too, and in fact there are many Nevan members of the Sleight of Hand Society. We do, after all, protect our people, and we do offer them a place to stay. We help them find room and lodging throughout the city, and if one of them gets in trouble, they'll always have a family to rely on. That's what the Sleight of Hand Society is for. But when it comes to some of the more radical members of Neva, we don't necessarily approve of their actions. There have been some dangerous plots running around that I've become aware of. This hasn't been the first time that I've heard rumblings of an assassination attempt on King Darian's life, but it seems to be the first time somebody's actually gone through and done it. No matter how much discrimination the Nevans have suffered, we don't think it's particularly good for business if the king himself gets assassinated. It would cause riots in the street, it would cause too much attention to be cast on Lowtown, too much attention perhaps on the society, and it's not something we necessarily want. So if the Nevans are responsible for this, it's nobody in the society, or at least nobody who has the society's approval."
You know why they would want him gone? You think they'd want somebody else in his place, or just to cause unrest?
Well, Parthenia says through Ines, unrest seems probable, but there is also the matter of Sebastian Godstantine. Do you remember him? Did your father ever tell you about him?
Yeah.
How much?
That was a particularly not. That was a sore subject with him.
So how much do you know about Sebastian Godstantine, dear? This happened long after your father and I weren't on speaking terms, but even I heard rumors of it from the papers.
Yeah. Well, he didn't talk about it much. And I wasn't involved in most of it.
Claudia says, he had diarrhea that night.
Yeah. I always felt a little bit guilty for not being able to be there at that time. I wasn't very experienced with things at then, but yeah, he it affected him greatly. I know he wasn't quite the same after that because he was getting on in years by that point. He spent the latter part of his career, I think, even though he emerged successful from that affair, I think always kind of looking over his shoulder. I do wonder if it shortened his life a bit.
Ines nods and says that, I mean, Sebastian Constantine, he was a very, very big crime figure in Neva, and the way that Neva is structured is that there are many crime families, and Sebastian Constantine was the head of the biggest, and he managed to unite a lot of the major crime families. And then he obviously had a lot of dealings in Tartec, dark, dangerous dealings, stuff that's beyond what the society does. We mainly deal in thievery, maybe some bootlegging, maybe the occasional brothel endorsing. But Sebastian Constantine, he was deep in the drug trade. He was deep in the illegal weaponry trade, not to necessarily thieves in Tartec, but to barbarians in the wildlands down south who would carry out raids in the villages around Tartec. He didn't really care who he hurt or who got killed as long as there was profit involved. So he brought a lot of attention to the Sleight of Hand Society, and we were always a little bit at odds with him. I, for one, as a Neva, never particularly supported him, but there were radical members who did. And when your father took him down, those radical members never really got over it. And what's more, his body was never found. So, even now there exists a large contingent of Nevans who want revenge against Tartec for what happened to Sebastian. And I'm sure that revenge possibly extends to King Darian, too.
My father always had I think a suspicion that Sebastian never actually died.
Did your father ever tell you what went on that evening? Parthenia says through Ines.
A little bit. I mean, bits and pieces.
But never any specific details.
Not really. He didn't, like I said, he didn't talk about those things much.
Well, your father was never one to really get into the details of work or even his emotions, my dear. That was always a problem between us. Us half-elves are very emotional, and your father, well, a man of action, I suppose he was, back in the day at least.
Yeah.
Well...
sometimes, but, yeah.
Well, says Parthenia, she's kind of stroking her chin, and she makes more signals, which Ines interprets. Perhaps the first thing to figure out would be if there was a plot to kill the king. Is it somehow related to Sebastian Constantine, or his supporters at least? If he is dead, then his supporters live on. They could be the ones trying to do it, to bring instability in the kingdom, or if Sebastian Constantine is alive, though God knows how he could be, maybe they hope to reinstate him as the ruler of Tartec in the place of King Darian. That would be the ultimate destruction of the Darian line of royalty. And it would not be so good for Tartec either. There's a certain amount of stability that the Sleight of Hand Society enjoys, and having a ruler forcibly deposed and a crime lord, supposedly deceased crime lord at that, put in his place, would not necessarily be good for business.
Yeah.
Be too much for us.
Yeah. Do you have any idea? We found a particular kind of poison at various points, and also in the king. I mean, people who uses poisons in the of nature, Because we found it also on that orangutan who was going,
Yeah, so
you know,
the poison was called Slug's Kiss.
yeah.
Yeah, and Ines looks at it and says, yeah, it's secreted from the slugs that inhabit the Neva swamps. It's also commonly used by Nevan assassins. However, it's fallen out of favor in recent times. There was one particular group that used it, and it was the group that Sebastian Constantine himself led. He enjoyed using poisons in his work, and his supporters also used them as well. And if this was found at the scene of the crime, and if this was involved in the king's assassination, then it is possible that Sebastian Constantine's supporters were somehow involved or may have plotted it. But I can't really tell you why it would have shown up in the orangutan. That doesn't entirely make sense.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah, I don't think we know that either. If you were going to go about looking for people like you mentioned, these supporters of Constantine, where would you start looking?
Well, Parfinia strokes her chin and looks troubled, and then looks at Ines, and the two of them have a conversation using their hands. Then Ines looks at you and says, there is one man, we don't know him, he's not a member of the society, but we've heard rumblings of him. There is one man in particular who, from what we've heard, is a radical supporter of Sebastian Constantine, almost worships him in a religious sort of way. The man's name is Ettor, E-T-T-O-R, Ettor. That's all we know about him. Rumor has it that he's been in Tartec for at least a year. Rumor has it he's employed in one of the noble houses in Hightown, because, as you might have heard, the nobility in Hightown, they tend to employ kind of the immigrants and the newly moved people of Tartec who can't get a job, and they almost make a game of it, saying that, oh, we're so good, we employed these many impoverished people. Look at how wonderful we are. Look at how we check our privileges by helping the poor. We've heard rumors through the various networks that there is a man named Ettor. He does work at one of the noble houses. I'm not sure which one, but he might be one to start with. Trying to find him. Parfinia says a few more things, and Parfinia says, well, from what I have deduced through my network, this man Ettor, he appears to hold some kind of grudge, whether it's against King Darian or whether it's against Tartec in general, I don't know. But remember that your father was involved in the death of Sebastian Constantine, so you best be careful, Lester. This man Ettor, whoever he is, if he finds out that you're on his trail, you might need to watch out.
Yeah, we seem to have gotten mixed up in a bit of a mess.
And then Parfinia says, there is one thing that I can give you that might help. One thing that might aid you in figuring out exactly what happened between your father and Sebastian Constantine, because that to me seems like the crux of this incident. If you can figure out what happened there, then you might be able to figure out what Constantine's connection to these Nevan supporters are, and why the Nevan supporters might want to kill the king. So, Parfinia goes and rumbles around in the shelves behind her, and you see lots and lots of old things, old books, old weapons, old casks, old treasure chests that she goes through. And then finally, she pulls out an old scroll, and then she hands it to you, and Ines translates and says, this scroll was given to Madame Parfinia years ago, and she got it from a wizard, and she used it with the aid of a wizard, and you'll probably need a wizard to help you use it too. but it can help you find out what happened that night. So here it is. I'll show this to you. It's it's a spell called the Forgotten Memories spell. Alright? So this spell lists a series of ingredients and incantations that can be used to unlock the hidden memories of a deceased relative and witness a moment from their past. There are some required ingredients. There's one body part or bone from the deceased family member. And you see scratchings in the text. It says, fingers, locks of hair, teeth, toes, eyeballs, interior organs and limbs are all okay. Have not tested with genitalia. You need 1 extract of mandrake root, 3 ghost vine droplets, 4 teaspoons of dreamer's pearls. All of the ingredients have to be burned with incense and then inhaled while the incantations are recited by a third party. And then the specific incantations are listed at the bottom of the spell, and they're kind of written in symbols. You can't read them. They appear to be a cipher only used by wizards. Yeah. And the spell has a short side note at the bottom which reads, the spell only seems to work once per family member. Not sure why that is, but I can only imagine that the wizard who created it didn't bother to work out the kinks. Also, it appears that it only works for immediate blood relatives, not mother-in-laws or distant cousins, I'm afraid. May it serve you well nonetheless. Mortimer Q. Snodgrass.
Huh. And for more about Mortimer, check out...
Yes, and if you want to know more about Mortimer, you can check out the prequel to the 13th Hour, A Shadow in the Moonlight.
Yes, and coming in future installments.
Yes. So, it's a spell, and then Parthenia says, I once used this to find out how my sister had died. If you find a wizard to help you, you might be able to use it as well. The ingredients are not difficult to find, and I can give you everything except the one body part. And so she rummages around in the shelves, and she basically gives you a pouch. And within the pouch are the ingredients that you need. They're basic ingredients in alchemy. So there's a mandrake root, the ghost vine droplets, which is in a little vial, and then 4 teaspoons of dreamer's pearls. And it's a kind of a sandy, like bluish substance. You don't know too much about herbology, so you don't exactly know where it came from, but she gives you those things. And so you have all the ingredients except for the body part. Yeah. So you might want to write that somewhere, that you have all these ingredients. Alright. So, Parthenia says, the body part you'll need to find yourself. Not sure how you're going to get it, but, well, if you do happen to dig up your father's corpse, give him my regards.
Okay. We'll do that.
Anything else you would like to ask them about?
The little markings that we've seen floating around the city on the walls that are
this
little picture. Is that something that is for you guys, isn't it?
They are ours, yes, Parthenia says. We use them to identify our agents located throughout the city. For example, if somebody's house is off limits, that means they're a member of the society. No stealing allowed from their abode. If you see a safe stash sign, that means it's a place to store items. If you're ever in a bind, you can come back to them later. If you ever see a tools required sign, it obviously means that a house is particularly difficult to break into and requires thievery tools. If you see an easy sign, it means that's an easy mark. There are a few of those scattered around town, and I do believe that our good friend Captain Smalldong's house is labeled as an easy mark. He still hasn't caught on to that, but... Oh, and of course danger. Danger is self-explanatory, but as you can see, thieves watch out for each other. There is honor among us, no matter what you might have heard. And I expect you to keep this information confidential, Lester. I am trusting you because of your father. He was a good man, and I hope you're a good man, too. And even if you're not, our people are everywhere, so do be careful, dear.
Well, given the nature of what I do with confidentiality and secrecy are everyday kind of things.
Well said, Lester, says Claudia.
How do we... I know this location changes from time to time, or I've heard. How would we find you guys again?
Well, we're situated here for the next month, after which we'll relocate, likely to somewhere else in the source. If you wish to find us again, go looking for the beggars. We'll send word that you are a member of the society now, an honorary member, so to speak. So just tell them that you're an honorary member of the society, and then I will show you the society sign. And so what Parthenia does is she does something that looks really weird, but she rubs her stomach clockwise and then rubs her head counterclockwise, and then she makes a face where she blows her cheeks out 3 times like this. And so that is the official Sleight of Hand Society sign. You show that to someone, then they'll know that you're one of us. Can you do it for me, Lester?
Okay, sure. I'm gonna do the thing.
Counterclockwise on the head, counterclockwise. And clockwise on the stomach. Your counterclockwise.
Okay.
And remember the cheeks. Very good, very good. That's very few people do that sort of thing on a regular basis, and most people will just think you're insane when you see it. When they see it, rather. So that's why we use it. The beggars will understand. But we're here for the remainder of the month, so.
Okay. Alright. Well,
Claudia's trying to get it right. She's like, counterclockwise, clockwise. This is confusing.
Uh-huh. And how do we get out of here?
Oh, well, you can just, here, follow me. And so they lead you down. You can follow them. That door there will take you over to Beggar's Alley. There's an abandoned building that we use in Beggar's Alley to get in and out. You came in through the hard way. You didn't need to do that, you know. But I think the beggars assumed that you wanted to run the gauntlet, and so there you go. And so Claudia's like, you mean we trekked through sewage for nothing? Well, not for nothing, Parthenia says through eyes. You did help us find the remains of Fast Eddie, and for that we appreciate it.
Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure getting to know you. Hopefully our paths will cross again. Good.
Anytime, dear, and if you ever need anything, come and visit. And do bring white roses from time to time. You've got a lot of making up to do now that your father's not around.
Sounds good. I'm a little bit better with birthdays, since he generally forgot mine.
Claudia's like, Lester, when's my birthday? You don't know, do you? I hate you, Lester.
I said a little bit, not perfect.
Claudia's like, the apple don't fall far from the tree at all.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Um, yeah, so before I forget, you have unlocked a lot of stuff. A lot of these character bios. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So, known informally as the Thief Queen, Parfinia is the leader of the Sleight of Hand Society. No one's sure of her exact age. She knew my father when the old man was my age, meaning that she's probably very old indeed. Also, I just learned that she and my pops had a fling a long time ago, before my mother was in the picture. Yeah, don't know how I feel about that. Parfinia handles all administrative duties of the society and ensures that Tartec's classiest criminals and mercenaries always have a backup network. She might be mute, but she's far from incapable and would be a tough woman to have as an enemy. Thankfully, she seems to have taken a liking to me, saying I remind her of old memories. Apparently, my father always forgot her birthday and never gave her white roses, her favorite. The old man always did have a rotten memory when it came to women. He forgot my mother's birthday every other year, too. And there's also Ines. Yeah. Personal handmaiden to the Thief Queen. Ines holds a rare skill, the ability to interpret and communicate via the intricate hand signals of half-elves. Ines is an immigrant from Neva who moved to Tartec when she was a little girl. She claims that she always had a knack for foreign languages, and hand signals were just a new tongue to master. Yeah. So she interprets for Parfinia, basically. And then there is our good friend, of course, Abram. A mercenary and member of the Sleight of Hand Society, Abram appears to be a seasoned bounty hunter with many missions under his belt. He seems to have some seniority within the society, as Parfinia doesn't order him around as much as the others. Abram has a strange affinity for rats and can always be seen fiddling with a little flute and occasionally stroking the fur of Ratchus, who lives somewhere in his coat. A bit gross, but at least it's his coat and not his pants. And let's see. Finally, there's Ramiro. You already know. Ramiro takes care of fencing stolen goods for the society and has a fondness for unusual black market weapons and useful knickknacks. He's got an eye for profit and seems to be the man to see if I'd like a useful tool or a weapon beyond the standard sword and shield. He too is originally from Neva, and so you can actually see he's got the tattoos as well. Yeah. And the very last one is McGregor. Yeah, you can see his dragon. McGregor, a burly bastard with a pet pseudo-dragon always lashed to his arm. McGregor seems to regard me with a great deal of disdain, or maybe even hatred. Much of it has to do with the fact that my father ruined one of his bank heists a few years back, and now that the old man's gone, he's decided to shift the blame to me. He's formerly a petty criminal who managed to join the Sleight of Hand Society by making it past their trials within the sewers. He hasn't been a member for terribly long, and from the way Parfinia treats him, it seems that he's in constant danger of getting kicked out. It seems that there's honor among thieves, after all. So, an interesting selection of people, and now you know all of them.
Interesting. Okay. Alright, well, I think we'll take our leave now.
Alright, you're going to head out through the regular entrance?
Yeah.
Right. You head out through the regular entrance, and you walk up a long tunnel, a long set of stairs, and unlike the disgusting sewers, these stairs and this tunnel appear to be lighted and carefully carved out, and it appears that you really took the long way around. And so you walk up, and you're exiting the sewers, and then you leave, and then you find yourself back into Beggar's Alleyway. Okay? You're in kind of an abandoned shack, and when you open the door, you can see that the shack's entrance is hidden by a large variety of barrels and boxes. Okay? And you are out of the Sleight of Hand Society in the sewers and made your way back into the city. And it is now actually evening. You've had a very long day. Okay? It's like past 8 p.m. in the evening. And you can see there are fewer beggars in the streets now. And yeah, here you are.
Well, I think we have a little money left, so I think we should, Chloe and I should eat something, and then we should hit the set.
All right. So, do you want to say anything to the beggars as you exit the scene?
Just wave and do the thing.
Claudia's like, "You bastards! Throwing us down into the sewers! You bloody stupid bastards!" She says this as she's doing the thing, and actually, all the beggars are laughing at you as you leave, and they're doing the thing too in unison.
Yeah.
You bloody bastards! I hope you all get the diabetes. All right. As you exit, you do notice a familiar face coming up to greet you. Look who it is. The one and only Captain Smalldong, and he appears to be doing an evening patrol. He almost bumps into you and he says, "Oh, Lester LeFoe, what are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be out investigating the killer in the streets?"
Yeah, I was doing my investigating, part of my investigating here.
Yeah, have you found anything? Care to share any of your investigations with the true members of the police force?
Nothing definite yet.
Of course there's nothing definite. It's because you're an amateur. A filthy amateur. Out of my way, Lester. I've got some beggars to rough up. And he goes to abuse the beggars, kicking pebbles in them, and making faces and saying, "Out of my way! No riffraff on the streets during dark. Get out of here. Don't you have some holes to stumble into?" And he's clearing them up, and the beggars are all like, very obsequious. They're like, "Oh, absolutely, sir. Absolutely." And they begin to scatter like roaches. And as Smalldong walks down the street, Claudia's like, "Little does he know that he's an easy mark."
Yeah.
Alright, so I believe if we go back to Tartec, yeah, so Beggar's Alley was right there, and here you are. It's getting late, so if you guys want to, you can get food, you can turn in.
Let's go get some food, and we'll reflect maybe a little bit on the day's events. It's been a really long day.
It's been a really long day, yeah. So I'm gonna say that you guys for dinner decide to go to an inn called the Crimson Blade, which happens to be nearby, and I'm going to say that they serve heaping amounts of borscht for dinner, and that's gonna be, it's cheap. It's gonna be 5 gold each.
Is there anything else to eat?
No, just borscht.
Oh, God. Is there any other place we can go?
There are places you can go. It's there's the city graveyard and there's the manors, which you haven't seen yet. But you got to eat your borscht first. The innkeeper is yelling at you for disrespecting the borscht. The Crimson Blade, by the way, is right here.
Okay.
Mark it. Crimson Blade is right there. Oops. You mark it in red for the crimson nature.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Eat your borscht.
Borscht. Oh. All right.
10 gold total. Remember.
Okay. Fine. Yeah, we're not leaving a tip though.
Fair enough. The innkeeper and the people working in the kitchen seem to be perennially grumpy, talking about how their hired help always quits.
Yeah, well, maybe they serve better food. And
if you want to know more about the Crimson Blade and the hired help, you too can read the 13th Hour.
Yeah.
Claudia says, "Lester, this borscht is not the best thing to be eating after a hard day trekking through the sewers."
No. Well, I'll pay for it.
Good on you, Lester. Let me mark that for you. Minus
Well,
10
fun.
for Crimson Borscht.
It's been a long day. What do you think after all we've discovered?
Well, Lester, I think that we've come upon a number of leads. I think we need to try to figure out what to do about that scroll that Parthenia gave us. I bet William could help us use it. I mean, if we can figure out what transpired between your father and Sebastian Constantine, we might have a bigger clue. And then there's this Etor guy that appears to be leading the radical Nevans, and well, Parthenia said he's somewhere in Hightown, employed at a noble house, maybe. I mean, we could go door to door, but there's so many noble houses. We need to try to narrow it down somehow. So there's that.
Yeah, I wonder. I think we could stop by and see the wizards. They might have a sense. I wonder if one of the anybody in the castle would know more about that.
That's
Maybe even
true.
King Darian himself.
That's true. We could always ask Ranger Esmeralda. She might know. After all, she probably has more of an idea of what goes on in Hightown than we. Oh, and there's one more thing. There's the matter of using that spell. We need a body part from your dear old dad.
Yeah. I wonder if hair counts.
Hair might count. It said, I think, what did the spell say? Take a look at it. Locks of hair work.
I don't know if we have lots.
Did your father leave you any locks scattered around the office?
No, but I have found pieces of hair stuck in books. That kind of thing.
Might need something more than that. We could ask William.
Yeah.
Your father, where's he buried, Lester? So your dad is buried in the city graveyard.
Yeah.
He's in a tomb in the city graveyard along with your mother.
Yeah. I don't know. That's to think about that one. The idea of exhuming my father doesn't exactly. After a day like today, it's not exactly a pleasant sort of thing to think about. So.
Well, says Claudia, there's always tomorrow, Lester.
There's always tomorrow. Sure.
We could also chat with William to see if he's got a better idea. I mean, so now it's like it's probably like 9:30, close to 10 p.m. So
yeah.
the castle is actually, it closes off to visitors after 9. So you can always visit him in the morning, though.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Maybe he knows of a way to, I don't know, amplify the amount of specimen that we have. I don't know. Maybe that he can do his wizard magic and make more of it or something.
Fair enough. You might as well give it a try tomorrow and turn in today. It's been an awfully long day, Lester.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your help, Claudia.
No problem. Anytime, Lester. I'd go traipsing through the sores with you any day.
If anything, you ended up a couple 100 gold richer today.
Indeed. And I hope to be a couple 100 gold richer after we solve this case, too.
Well, if nothing else, you got some cool gear now.
That's true. Got me a staff of vines. And you got yourself a bow. So, in the future, we can become quite the tag team squad. I can get out close and barrage them with vines, and you can jump in the back and shoot them with explosive incendiary devices, and we can truly cause some havoc.
Yeah. I still don't really know, speaking of havoc, we still don't really know how the orangutan is related to all this, or if the orangutan is even related to any of this.
But do you remember when we went to see Evelyn in Lura Square? Do you remember the different animals that she had on display for Immortality Day?
Yeah.
Do you remember that one of them was a slug?
That's true. Yeah, I forgot about that.
And the poison appears to be stuff that can only be got from a slug. So, I don't know, but maybe they use the slug secretions or something like that. Who knows?
Maybe it was just a test to see if what it would do.
Maybe. Although I have to say that if these Nevan rebels, if they really wanted to assassinate King Darian, they didn't do a proper job of it. You know, they screwed up and they killed Paul Gigolo instead, and they don't seem very professional to me.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, they did do a rather shit job of the whole thing.
This guy Etor, if he was actually behind it, maybe he's the sort of villain that likes to hit the sauce and is always drunk and not very good at things, kind of like Captain Smalldog.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. I don't really know.
Or maybe all they wanted to do was create a little havoc. I don't know.
That's true, but well, the thing is, the day after tomorrow is Immortality Day, so we should be careful. If they want to create havoc, then Immortality Day would be the day to do it. Particularly since King Darian's going to unveil that statue that evening in Lura Square. He's got presumably what should be some big grotesque statue of himself. So,
yeah,
we should try to hurry to solve this case before then.
It doesn't make sense though. If all they want to do is create havoc, now things are going to be tighter security-wise than ever at the castle.
That's
unless
true.
Unless that's a diversion to something else.
That's true. Well, maybe they've got a mole in the police force. Who knows?
No, I have my suspicions on that small dog.
Indeed. I know he doesn't seem like the type of bloke to really have the balls, excuse me for saying so, to attempt to do something like this. He is an easy mark, after all.
True. That's true.
Who knows? Very strange.
Well,
right. Well, it's starting to get really late, so you guys should probably head home.
Yeah, let's sleep on it. Well, tomorrow's another day. We'll think about it tomorrow.
Alright, so after 2 bowls of not very good borscht, and after losing 10 gold to the owners of the Crimson Blade, you leave the inn, and you trek back to Willow Avenue, where this day's events began.
Yeah. Wow. A lot happened that day.
A lot happened, and it's quite late, and actually, right now, it's nighttime, so Mother Methany Ann is actually not in the street at the moment, and neither are the girls. They're Joan and Alice are somewhere else, possibly propositioning customers somewhere else. So Claudia's going to go to her boarding house. She's like, "Good night, Lester. I'll see you in the morning. Hopefully this will be a bit clearer after we sleep on it." And then she once again notices that both your house and Mother Methany Ann's boarding house have been marked as off limits.
Huh.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Good to know. Yep. There's the X with the squiggle beneath it, off limits. And she says, "Oh, the Sleight of Hand Society looking out for us. Ain't nobody gonna be stealing my staff, at least." So she exits and goes up the stairs into the boarding house, and then you get to retire to your LeFoe detective agency. Lester LeFoe, alone, can take it to the spank bank before bed.
Well, I think Lester LeFoe is going to take a bath.
All right. So
Wash him too.
All right. So Lester LeFoe, after a very long day, I'm going to assume you go upstairs. Your bathing stuff is upstairs in your bed. You take a bath and you wash up, and you think about all the crazy stuff that happened today. A lot happened in a single day.
Yeah.
And so, what are the things that you think you need to accomplish tomorrow before we wrap up?
Well, I think we'll have to follow up on the that guy in Hightown.
Yep.
I think we'll probably go to the castle early in the morning to see the wizards.
Yep, that'd be a good idea.
Uh, See if they know anything. I'd be curious to see if they know anything about that teleportation kind of thing, but also take that scroll and see what they make of it.
Yeah, William could probably help you with that.
Yeah, it was done by another wizard, so maybe they knew the guy.
Yeah.
They're in this association together, right? So maybe they were colleagues or something, and to see if that can help.
You got some good leads. You got a good plan of action to do for you. You could figure out how to use the spell, figure out how the Nevans are involved, and then hopefully things should come to place. And at least you have a lot of cool gear. You got a lot of cool stuff.
I do. Yeah.
Over the course of a day. And so now that you're in bed, finally, after you go to bed each night, you get your experience points for the entire day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So if you look at your character sheet right now, you get your experience points. So if you look at your character sheet, up on the top where it says under detective, you see experience points. Yeah. So you currently have 1,000 out of 2,700 experience points. You're level 3. When you reach 2,700, you level up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So after all the crazy stuff that you did today, you get 1,000 experience points. So you're at 2,000 right now. You only need 700 more to level up. I just changed it for you.
Okay.
Yeah. And Claudia is the same, actually. Claudia is at the same level as you, also level 3, also with 1,000 experience points. So she is also at 2,000 now. And so it's pretty good. Once you guys surpass 2,700, you get to be level 4. And when you level up, your stats improve a little bit.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So if you can survive another day in the big city, then you can get more points. You can become a better character, and hopefully get some more dinero also, because you also spent a lot of money today. Got a lot of money, and then you lost a lot of money.
Oh, easy come, easy go.
Yep.
Thanks, Fast Eddie.
Thanks to Fast Eddie, who you totally jacked his stuff. Alright, well, yeah, so that's it for now. Day 1 is complete, and you have one more day before Immortality Day.
Oh, sounds good. So it's been like a day and a half of adventure, right?
Yeah, there's been like the first day where you stopped Olivia the orangutan, and then a full day where you did a lot of stuff, and then you have one more day where hopefully you can figure out what's going on, and then finally there's Immortality Day. And on the evening of Immortality Day, there's a big party in Lura Square, where the statue of King Darian is going to be unveiled. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, all right. Packed a couple of days. Time to get a couple hours sleep, probably.
Yep. Get some rest.
Yeah.
All right, good job. Any questions?
Let's see. I don't think so. I was wondering if there was more to be done or had in that sleight of hand room where all those people were there.
You can always go back. It's not closed. You know the regular entranceway now.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
You can always go back, and if you need to buy more bolts from Ramiro, you can always go back. His weapon stock won't change. You bought him out, and he doesn't get new stuff. Like, he only gets new stuff every week, so his weapons won't change for a bit. But you bought him out, and you can always go back to chat with Abram or Ramiro, or even McGregor, who doesn't like you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So keep that in mind as a location that you can always go back to as well. You can always go back to the Wizard's office, and you can always go back to the Sleight of Hand Society.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's any other questions.
I'm going to just stop recording for now, and we'll pick up
really,
next
I
time.
don't think so.